Hello everybody and welcome to the Robo-Raptors podcast. I'm Bailey.
I'm Alex.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm James.
And today we'll be talking about the new FLL challenge and the board. Yeah, because the first recording didn't go very well. Okay, so here's a picture of the board. So James, as a programmer, what in your opinion is the hardest part on this board?
Everything. This year it's actually quite a hard board. There's no black lines to anything like there were last year. There's a black line going all the way to the end of the board. There's none of that.
Right.
There's only 4 or 5 black lines, one of them which is completely and utterly pointlessly useless.
Why does that make it harder though?
Well, if like us for the last 4 years we've got a robot that isn't actually the best at going in a straight line,
yeah,
it constantly needs references to know where it is.
Yeah.
This year we've solved that problem, and it goes in quite a good straight line. But many of the robots at the regional competitions don't go in a straight line, and therefore don't use sensors, and therefore don't score very well.
Okay, so what does everybody think to the board? Because I quite like it. It looks a lot more space, but there's a lot more like in the middle of stuff. For example, the ambulance and the truck are just in the middle of the board. What do you think, Aaron?
It's a lot more spread out across the entire
board
instead of just in corners like it was.
From a programmer's point of view, the first thing I'm thinking straight away is obviously there's the supplies in the truck.
Yeah.
So maybe first thing to do is get that back to base.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as you've done that, just get both of them into the scoring region straight away, which is up here, into the yellow
Clear
section.
out the middle part.
And then all of a sudden you've got the big gap between the tsunami and the house. You've then also got it doesn't look very big, but it's quite large, the size of the base, gap behind the house.
Right.
So there is quite a big gap, but it's just when it gets around this end, there's nothing really to reference to.
Yeah, because
if you reference off walls, but
and what we have,
really last year.
And what is new this year is the scoring regions all over the board, which is quite nice. There's a few in the plane on the runway.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scoring regions this year. There's 4 on the obstacles. The N1, which is a red one, which is like the highest scoring points for all the obstacles and all that stuff. There's also a pink one, I believe, where the evacuation sign is. There's a blue one on the runway. There's also a yellow one on the runway. There's also a light green one where the relocation model is at the moment.
I like the runway. I like the fact that on the runway, if you touch your robot, you get parts put on the runway to make it harder for the plane to land.
Yeah, it's a nice idea because it does sort of it makes it a lot harder than it has been in some of them in the past, because like before the penalties was things like the clicker. It was a lot harder with that. It was a lot easier. Sorry, all they did was put it back. It wasn't really a penalty. It didn't stop you from moving anywhere.
And also this year as well, they're worth more. So I think they're worth 8 points in the yellow region.
Right.
But then all of a sudden as soon as you get one, if you haven't got, obviously there's the mission that keeps the runway clear, which is worth 30 points. So as soon as one of them debris get on, in theory you've lost that. Unless obviously for the last 5 seconds.
Are we allowed to actually take it off the runway after it's been put right?
But if for example, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 debris, so you've got 7 chances to touch your robot. After that, the ref will then move it from that point into the light blue region.
Right.
From there, it's worth 10 points a shot, and you can't move it, and it's on the runway. So there, if you got 3 and you've lost 30 points for that, you've also lost a possible 30 points off the runway, and then you've also got the 5 left on the runway. So all of a sudden, if you touch it 7 times in the mission, you've basically lost everything you got up to.
Okay. And I like the idea of the plane as well, because it flies across the board, and it's I don't know. Yeah.
It's never done that before.
It's always been like a truck or a lorry or push.
So it's always been on the board. It's never been something like just
it's never been, which is quite an interesting way of doing it.
What are your views on the in the middle, on the I don't know what to call it, on the
dual one?
On the dual one,
Medal? It's not a medal. It's circular. It's like a medal.
It's like a medal. That's fine.
It's got different colours on.
So how does that work?
Basically, you click it 3 times for 2 points. So it's really quite a low scoring mission.
So it's like the.
But it's an interesting one because this year unlike the last years where it's being head to head. So
Yeah.
whoever gets there quickest or whoever sort of
Plays it most.
has it the last, whoever does it the most, something like that. This time it's
A team
you can
effort.
do it. Yeah, well, you can do it on either side, and it
Alright.
it
Still
affects both
contributes to
sides.
your
Yeah.
points.
So if you do it on your side, it will also give the other side points, which in a way doesn't make any sense, but it will. I'm certain it will at the competition definitely bring up some interesting sort of factors and interesting.
I don't think personally at the regionals they'll actually attempt that. I don't actually think they'll attempt that at the nationals unless
Why?
they've already got full points.
Why?
Because that is the most work,
Alright.
the most time consuming, for the least amount of points.
True.
There's about 4 clicks for every,
Nope.
for every 2 points.
Go on.
So that's, for example, there's 32 points. There's 32 points you can get. So that's 16. So that's like 64 clicks
Yep.
just to get 32 points. Whereas, for example, get the branch over the wire.
I like that.
25 points.
Yeah.
So I really don't think, unless they've got full points elsewhere, they'll actually no one will actually attempt to go for that.
Because we've already got a robot, even if it might not be the robot that we'll be keeping. How hard was it to design it around this year's board? Especially because of the spaces between everything is so tight.
There's quite a tight space, but if you look at it from perspective on this board, the space between each one is about the width of base.
Right.
So as long
Okay,
as your
so
robot
yeah.
fits in base
Yeah.
and you've got a very precise robot, it will fit through the models.
But it's if it is precise.
Yeah, for example, if it goes out there and then skids to something,
Yeah.
slips a gear, whatever, comes back and then takes out the tsunami model, just completely takes it out because it's that big.
There's also,
You've got a problem with your hands, bro.
and there's a lot of tasks that are quite hard. For example, then we have to push up the
That's gonna be perfect. The evacuation side.
evacuation sign. Yeah, because if you push it too much, it won't work. If you don't push it enough,
Yeah, there's no
It also
stop on
won't
If
work.
you push it too much, it falls.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Fall forward.
Most other sort of like pushy things you've had in the past, you've had to either you've just had to push it as much as you can, as hard as you can,
yeah.
to get the points. But this, you've got to be
That-
accurate.
That one's quite like the model if you remember from the food factory, the body forward.
Is that was there like a bone in the middle? You have to like connect the bone.
That
Yeah.
was one. Up near the top end, near the brain door, and that
Yeah.
there was a dispenser, which had 3 rows of pills, different colours.
Okay.
And you had to push them, but you only had to drop 2 off.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you went too far, all 3 will fall off. Not far enough, only 1 will fall off. So they pretty much copied that year.
Okay.
last year.
So yeah.
They keep copying missions. Well, they keep copying the idea of missions.
Yes.
Just,
Slight
What
changes.
one? Well, there's a couple. Sort of. I mean, one of them you have to use a bit of imagination to get, but
Right.
the other one, there's 2 of them from when we first started really that have been brought back. Like the tsunami one is a lot like the truck one, which was on the first year, which would be 2009, would
yeah,
it?
the 2009
2009, and there's
smart move.
yeah, and you had to knock a truck basically off this ramp, which is similar to that.
And then it followed again the year after with,
Yeah.
if anyone remembers from the body forward, the injection where you had to knock the lever.
And the dog that was last year as well.
Yeah, that was a push lever,
But
right
the-
angle, annoying
Yes,
thing.
but that was you had to get it as
Which would
far as you
got
can.
if it didn't bounce off the goddamn mirror.
So as a last kind of message, as a programmer and because you're making the robot, what is the hardest task on the board, and what will you think will take you the most amount of time to actually program and get your robot around?
I actually think
It's a hard one because they're all so hard.
It's
there's ones that you think
an
are
interesting
easy,
year.
Yeah.
and then probably when I get on the board and start programming that, you think, bloody hell, they're hard.
Yeah. Okay.
I personally think the hardest one would be the one.
I think the cable one.
I think the long one where it's over.
The obstacles. That could be
the
pretty
obstacles,
difficult.
because
Yeah.
that one can really
Yes. 'cause
can
it's
really
got,
throw your robot.
well, it's got
I
a
think-
rolling road and then
It's-
a
I
balance
think
seesaw
bridge.
and a high.
Yeah.
One thing I've got to mention is though, as well, you've got to plan which way you do the models, for example, because if you notice on the tsunami one, the waves or Lego roll on the map.
Right.
but they've pointed the model exactly at the evacuation sign.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get the evacuation sign first,
Yep.
and then roll the tsunami down, they could hit the plate and then knock it over.
Right.
So you've gained the points from that, but you've lost the points for that. But no, the hardest mission. I'd actually think the power line one.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because it's so
even
hard.
if it
really tricky.
touches because the actual
Yeah.
power lines aren't stuck to the board. If you knock that and knock that over, it's no point.
You've got to be really precise.
There's a lot of precision on this board.
It's not level, is it, either? You have to
No.
figure out an angle,
Yeah.
which is another annoying thing because Lego doesn't do angles too well, really.
No, Lego hates angles.
Yeah,
And I hate Lego angles.
Yeah.
especially one like that.
But we all love Lego.
Yeah.
Right, so that wraps it up for episode 1 of the podcast. Next time we'll be talking about the
Project, I believe.
research project and what's involved with that. But yeah, until then,
Stay tuned.
goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.